Jake Hatch of Locked On Cougars covering all things BYU. Bear Bachmeier is your starting quarterback, the first freshman to start game one in the history of this school. It's almost like they need a Jewish quarterback or something to break, all of the people's brains as the first person to do a thing there in the signal collar spot. Man, I think everyone is surprised. I would, if you followed this, you should be surprised that Bear Bachmeier is the guy, because it was originally McKay Hillstead's job to lose, from everything that I heard and everything that I was told. He was going to be the quarterback for the Cougars, and then Trayson had a good run at it. Bear Bachmeier's coming in having not had a spring there. He was a high school football player this time last year, and now he leads a team that, in my opinion, has a roster built to be a top 20, top 15 team in the country, a top 15, top 20 roster in the nation. Is this good for BYU? If that's the question, is this good for BYU?
I believe it has the potential to be good for BYU, yes, because you're looking at potentially a guy who could be a multi-year starter if everything goes according to plan here, Drake. And yeah, you're obviously going to take some lumps, it feels like, early on this season. The nice part is, if there is a schedule for BYU to insert a first-time freshman starting quarterback, it's this schedule for BYU. They open up against Portland State. They host a rebuilding Stanford squad. You go across the country to East Carolina, and quite frankly, of the first 6 games in BYU's schedule, I think that East Carolina game is the toughest of the bunch. And I had Spencer McLaughlin's head about explode when I mentioned that to him the other day. But I really look at it. You have Colorado on the road. You have Arizona and West Virginia, who are expected to be bottom dwellers in the Big 12 Conference in your first 3 Big 12 games. So there is a real nice soft landing with these first 6 games for Bear Bachmeier to get up to speed. The veteran nature of the offense outside of that, guys like Chase Roberts, LJ Martin, Carson Ryan, a transfer in from Utah that they expect to be an absolute star in this offense at tight end. The veteran guys around him are going to make him feel comfortable. And as Aaron Roderick said, all he's got to focus on here, Drake, is making the right play, getting the ball where it needs to be, when it needs to be there, and not try and force anything that doesn't need to be forced.
Jake, I'm going to hit you with the deep track here.
All right.
You ever heard the name, and this is kind of a niche college football reference, you ever heard the name Case Keenum?
I have.
You know how many records he holds in college football?
A fair amount, because trust me, he broke some of BYU's quarterback records along the way.
Pretty much all of them, actually. He kind of holds all of the quarterback records for career quarterbacks. Do you know what one has to do to set the career quarterback records?
You got to play essentially from day one, like Bear Bachmeier and Case Keenum are going to be doing.
You kind of got to play from day one. Game one's got to be your first 500-yard appearance, and then from there you start to rack up the stats to be able to conquer all of college football's all-time records. And who knows, with all of the rules we have in college football, Bear Bachmeier could play for 6 years and start for 6 years, thanks to how we do things in 2025. We look upon the quarterback position so differently now than we did 10 years ago. We look upon it now as you need the 4th-year guy who transferred in from Western Kentucky. 10 years ago, it was, here's a stud high school athlete. If you don't have a legit quarterback at the signal caller position, let's create competition. And if the freshman wins that position, whether it be at Colorado or BYU, you could be in a fine spot. 10 years ago, no one's complaining about this. And I'm not going to sugarcoat this completely and pretend that Utah didn't exist last year with Isaac Wilson, and not having a QB or an experienced QB didn't derail their season. It certainly did. For BYU, though, if they're in a similar spot to where Houston was with Case Keenum or Jameis Winston at Florida State, or you'll remember the redshirt freshman, Johnny Manziel, stepping into his first spring, his first summer, his first fall with the Texas A&M Aggies winning the Heisman Trophy, that's something I think we've lost. The upside of this could be so high.
Well, and Drake, I'll bring it even closer to home. Remember what Bear Bachmeier's older brother Hank did at Boise State?
Yeah.
He started from day one. He was an early enrollee at Boise State. Now, his time at Boise State didn't pan out the way I think everybody expected when things looked absolutely awesome at the beginning. He spent time at Louisiana Tech and Wake Forest in the end. But this is a family that is not wholly unfamiliar with starting early on in their college careers. Tiger was the same thing, albeit as a wide receiver at Stanford before joining Bear at BYU. So I like what you're saying here is there is opportunity on the table here for Bear to come in and make a major impression. And the nice part is, as I already mentioned, it's a veteran-laden offense outside of him for BYU. It's a soft schedule. A lot of things are kind of conspiring here, and that's not a negative term, but they're coming together to help BYU, help him get in, and hopefully takes the bull by the horns and really gets going.
I've seen the Arkansas football schedule, and I believe it's Kelly Ford has Arkansas as the toughest schedule in the country. I would not want to be a freshman quarterback at Arkansas right now. You're going to be punished and pummeled. I would rather be a freshman quarterback with those 3 non-con games and a soft entry into, really, I don't think BYU is going to be legitimately challenged until the Utah game, which is the 6th on their schedule.
Seventh game. It's actually
7th?
Yeah, 7th game, yeah.
You very, very much should be favored in the first 6 games then, if you're BYU, and likely 6-0 in my book going into the Utah game. Can you tell me, though, your boots on the ground in Provo, personality, what is Bear Bachmeier like with this team?
He's commanded the respect of his teammates. He's ingratiated himself. And that's the crazy thing about this, Drake, is he showed up in late May. This wasn't the guy who showed up in March when the transfer portal opened, or I guess early April when it opened. He showed up right away and started working out. No, he had to finish classes at Stanford and then finally showed up in late May. And he has come in. He has been pretty humble about understanding where he fits in the pecking order with a veteran-laden outside all he's done is go out and made plays in practice. And everything we've heard from guys like Aaron Roderick as his offensive coordinator, as well as position coaches, the quarterback's coach, is that he has been able to lead, albeit being one of the youngest guys on the roster. And that is a very, very good sign. The fact that he can come in, command the respect of his teammates, but at the same time, make sure that he's not acting like he's a big shot, saying, hey, I'm the 4-star prospect. I'm a transfer from Stanford. This is my job to lose. He came in, he beat out 2 established guys in Trayson Bourget and McKay Hillstead, and all the while, I think garnered the respect of his teammates, and that's why he's your starting quarterback in Provo.
It may have been Chase Roberts. I don't want to misquote misquote, but somebody like that at BYU posted a picture, 2 months ago on their Instagram story of them working out with McKay Hillstead. And it became this thing.
It was actually their assistant quarterbacks coach, Matt Mitchell. So he's obviously he's a Baylor guy. I think you're aware of Matt's connection with Baylor. He's now officially the assistant quarterbacks coach. And yeah, that picture had all these quarterbacks, including Bear Bachmeier, and 2 BYU legends in John Beck and Steve Young working out with them in Provo.
That I remember the murmurs outside of that were, it feels like this is McKay's job. Was there a time a couple months ago, just based on the murmurs, that was the case? And then why did it flip?
I think the biggest thing is that McKay absolutely balled out in this camp. It's just the simple fact of life is you have a guy like Bear Bachmeier who came in and made the most plays. Aaron Roderick had a higher completion percentage, less interceptions, more big plays, did everything better than McKay Hillstead did. And that's not to say that McKay wasn't good. He was very, very good in this camp. It's just that Bear Bachmeier was that much better. And that's a credit to a young man of that caliber to come in and do that, because this has been a crazy offseason. BYU went into the offseason fully expecting to have a senior quarterback in Jake Retzloff leading them to glory this year. Civil lawsuit pops up. He leaves. He's now at Tulane, and I wish him the absolute best with the Green Wave. I expect he'll be the starting quarterback there, and I hope he absolutely kills it. Then you have McKay Hillstead looking like, he's probably the odds-on favorite here just due to the experience factor. And I know that when they recruited Bear coming over from Stanford, they told him, hey, you're absolutely going to be given an opportunity to earn this job. And if you prove to be the better guy, we won't hesitate in playing you. And to his credit, he absolutely made that a reality.
BYU went into this offseason having no idea who Bear Bachmeier is.
Well, no, I do know they knew who Bear Bachmeier was, because they tried to recruit him late in his high school recruiting process.
I would say, BYU fans, I should say, that there was it was never on the radar that this could possibly be a thing, that Bear Bachmeier would be the starting. If you told someone that January 18th, they're like, okay, no.
If you were to transport yourself back to January 8th of this year and said, hey, by the way, you're going to go through a situation where your starting quarterback's going to have to leave the university, then you're going to have a quarterback competition. And oh, by the way, come September, your starting quarterback's all of 19 years old and a true freshman who's never started a game. I would be hard pressed to find a single Cougar fan who would be like, yeah, I want all of that. Give it to me.
And they'd be frustrated. And then you tell them, oh, wait, by the way, Hinckley's back. And they punch you in the face. That's when they're like, there's no way this is real. There's no way any of it's real, but maybe it is for BYU. That's Jake Hatch every day on Locked On Cougars, at Jacob C. Hatch as well on Twitter. This has been and always will be Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day, a crossover with Cougars and Dose Grande.